It goes on baseball pitchers' cleats because as they drag their back foot when they throw off the mound, they burn through their leather uppers. And you can put it on anything. It's made out of highly technical specialty chemicals. It is waterproof and chemical proof. Well, chemical resistant, abrasion resistant, puncture resistant. It's flexible. It's an adhesive, so it bonds things together very well. It's just a great product. And, we have the service side of the business where we apply this for every, like I said, professional baseball pitchers and colleges across the country. They send it in.
Well, we found out that our producer here, Nicole Terry, she has a friend who's a baseball player who uses your product.
That's
so we
right.
should give a shout out to him, who should remain nameless, but you know who you are. Okay.
So, I started in Tuff Toe when I was about 24 years old. And, I was getting my MBA at the time from Chapman, local college here. Shout out to them.
Sure.
But they don't really teach you how to run a business. And so I made quite a few mistakes. And
Sure.
every once in a while you make the same mistake twice. And gosh darn it, if I didn't make a few mistakes 3 times,
Right.
I feel like I should have spent some jail time for those. But,
He's just kidding.
but the beauty of it is that Tuff Toe has always saved, the product itself has always saved my bacon. And so it's just that good. And, we've grown organically. We don't do any advertising or anything like that. It's been word of mouth, and we just continue to grow. So it's really our product when it comes down to it that we're a small company dealing niche markets, but we got a great product.
Right, but speaking of niche markets, that you read my mind. That's my next question. You mentioned the sports aspect of it.
Right.
Where else have you taken this product? Where else is there a need for a product like Tuff Toe?
Well, back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, the product was pre-mixed and frozen. So we had to keep it on dry ice in freezers. Otherwise, when it became room temperature, it would start to cure, right? So it was use it or lose it. And we knew that, we couldn't go to market with that. So we came out with a preformed pitching toe, injection molded, and brought that to market in the early 90s. And that did well.
Right.
There wasn't much else on the market. But as far as the other product, it was kind of just a service. But we knew we couldn't feed 2 families. My brother and I couldn't feed 2 families just on that little niche market. So I used to do a lot of trade shows and flying all over the place. And I would fly in and out of LAX. And this one time, business was going just okay, but we knew we needed to make a pivot. I couldn't afford to, pay for parking in the terminal, so I always used the employee parking lot and then took the shuttle in. And coming home one time, it's late at night, I'm tired, I'm on the employee shuttle, and I look around, I'm kind of looking down because I'm tired, and there's 6 guys on there with steel toe work boots. And their steel toes hanging out of their boots. I mean, they're just beat up. And 3 of the guys, you could see the steel toe. One of the guys had clear Mylar packaging tape on his boot, trying to hold it together. Another guy had silver duct tape. And the most ingenious of them was a guy that, what PVC glue is?
Yeah.
You get the white PVC and you slap it with this stuff.
Blue?
So, the blue. So it was bright blue toes he's hanging out there. And I'm like, oh, man, there it is. There's my market. All these guys could use my, instead of 1 player out of 9 on a baseball field.
Right.
All these guys could use my product. And so from then on out, I've been chasing work boots.
What an entrepreneurial story. So if we had the gong ready, because normally here on Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast, when you hear that gong, that means it's a teachable moment. So you want to maybe go back about a minute, and you got the entrepreneurial inspiration at a time when you might have been dead dog tired, right?
Absolutely.
And not really doing advanced market research, right?
Not at all. No, and I needed it, and there it was.
Right, and life brought it to you.
Absolutely.
Just because you looked down.
Right, absolutely.
So how was that market for you then?
That's great.
That's a work boot market?
Yeah, work boot. Yeah, so there's a lot of guys that, kick the leather toes off their steel toe boots, guys that are on their hands and knees, roofers, cement guys, and they just burn right through the steel toe part of the boot. The rest of the boot's fine.
Right.
And so now we co-brand with Red Wing Shoes, and so we're in all the Red Wing shoe stores across the country, and they're a great brand, and it's a great marriage, great partnership.
Yeah, so what's that like to have a big brand like that behind your brand?
Well, it's awesome. I mean, obviously it gives me, they believe in me, they believe in the product, and it makes us legitimate, because they are the best boots in the world, really.
Right.
And so being with them, we jump in their distribution channels, and I can concentrate on making the best product I can make and allow them to go out and sell and distribute.
So that's one of the things that we talked about in one of the peer groups that we had this morning. Terry Sawyer was there talking about how to leverage your brand and grow your business. She runs Tea and Company here in Orange County, public relations and branding firm, and she was talking about strategic relationships. How a company can align with Ford Motor or Red
Sure.
Wing Shoes, and how that can bring instant credibility, but also a channel that has huge volume potential, right?
Absolutely, right. Yeah, so it's been a great marriage for us, and I'm hoping that there's a few more of those partnerships out there.
Right. So if you happen to be listening today and you're one of those kind of brands, you ought to. We'll give you the contact information for Ryan towards the end of the show. So you got to listen for about another 12 minutes, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Can you think of a decision that you made along the way that really kind of empowered the growth and what you're seeing from Tuff Toe today, Ryan?
Besides identifying that market, that was huge, but probably another one would be, like I said, it was pre-mixed and frozen. We couldn't take that to market. And so I was lucky enough to run into a gentleman that worked for a large adhesive manufacturing company, and they had two-part materials, which is what we have now. And he came to me and said, hey, you could probably sell more if you could sell it, retail. And I said, absolutely. So we developed with that company a two-part solution, and that was going well until there was some quality control issues and some price increases. And I just realized, oh man, I'm a middleman here, and I am building somebody else's business, not my own.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I just became focused on learning and trying to figure out how to make it myself. And so then this same gentleman, I told him, look, I got to be my own, got to do my own thing here. And,
Right.
and he introduced me to some, rock star chemical engineers that he knew back in the day. And these guys were all retired, and some of them had built and sold their own adhesive companies and were sailing off into the sunset. But they kind of really took me under their wing and helped me out. And so,
Wow, you're really lucky.
yeah,
Right?
for sure.
I mean,
Oh, for sure.
that's a story that's inspiring.
It was just a blessing. And so in 95, we were launching their version of Tuff Toe. By 2001, we had our own. And sure enough, the gentleman, Mr. Jacobs, who had that company, sold it to 3M for $30 million, and he sailed off onto the sunset. And 6 months later, I got a letter from 3M saying,
Cease and desist, baby.
yeah, well, no, they just said, we're not going to support that line. We're not in niche markets, right?
Oh, my
You're
God.
too small for us. We're not even going to make it for you. So thankfully,
Yeah.
I had already had
Right.
the wheels going, and we were,
Holy cow.
didn't need them, but man, I wouldn't have a business without it, for sure.
This is one lucky person here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope your luck rubs off on the rest of us here in the studio
yeah,
today, Ryan Pribble.
Well, sure.
Good for you.
Yeah, blessed for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you were to give advice, maybe one suggestion, I know you're a humble guy, so just kind of go with me a little bit on this one, but other entrepreneurs that are leading companies, from your experiences, is there a piece of advice you'd want to share with our audience today?
I've got a college roommate I've just visited in Colorado, and he is running his business, but he doesn't own it. And he's got has an absentee owner, and we were discussing business. And, the advice that I gave him and what I would give anybody is, if you have an idea of a product or a market or a new strategy or a new service, it comes down to betting on yourself. You got to bet on yourself. And sometimes it takes guts to follow your gut,
Right.
and it's scary.
Right.
And you're going to get a lot of no's, especially when it's, okay, I got to mortgage my house, or I got to take money out of my 401k or what have you. You're going to get a lot of no's from your friends and family that don't want to take those types of risks.
Right.
But if you have an obsessed, vision and focus, I say, bet on yourself. You're going to get a lot of no's, but those no's, it's your responsibility to turn those no's into yeses by, instead of you being an obstruction in my way, it's my job to convince you to help me get to a yes. And so it's funny, several years ago I was talking to my wife, and I had this vision for where I wanted the family to go and what I wanted to do. And we talked about it for years, this specific thing I wanted to do. And out of frustration, she just says, you just never take no for an answer. And
Was that a compliment?
no, no, she wasn't.
You're
she
so
was
persistent.
She was frustrated.
That's one of the
Right,
things I
right,
love about you, honey.
right. But I tried to diffuse the situation, and I just looked at her and said, there are no no's. They're just longer yeses. And sometimes, honey, you're a long yes. And that's kind of how I've been with my business as well. That it took me 5 years to get an appointment with the buyer for Dick's Sporting Goods, and they're the last national sporting goods chain across the country. And it took me 14 years to go from knocking on Red Wing's door to co-branding with them.
Wow, 14 years.
Yeah, and now I'm working on a 16-year yes, I'll call it. That these rock star chemical engineers that helped me along the way all told me, you can't do it. No, that idea is not going to work. We've tried it. It's tried in the past. We can't. It can't be done. And I'm 3 months away from a 16-year yes, just because, I don't know. You just got to follow your gut and bet on yourself. And I don't know, another lucky, I guess.
I love that answer because if I could, having spent 25 years in the corporate world where it was a challenging thing, but I found the way to be successful. I didn't realize how much more being an entrepreneur, now being 11 years in, would ever challenge me compared to the corporate world.
Right.
There are aspects of being an entrepreneur that are so much deeper than just getting a paycheck and working your ass up, working hard for somebody else,
right.
that I really couldn't fully appreciate until I was in this seat and life gave me those opportunities. Are you committed or not?
Right, absolutely.
Are you really believing you can be successful, or do you want to blink?
Right, exactly.
And just write off what you've already spent and just go find a job and call it a good learning experience.
Yeah, I had several friends say, dude, give this up. You're talented, you're smart enough, you could go get a job somewhere.
For as hard as you work, as much as you risk, that's all you're making?
Right,
What do you got in your mind?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Why are you
that's how it
doing
was
that?
for a long time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be a long time.
A long time, yes,
right.
sir.
It doesn't have to, and it's not on your clock. You can work your behind off. You can do all the things you think are right. You can make all the best decisions possible, and you still may not get the results that you're expecting.
Absolutely. But
wow,
you got to keep going.
But you got to keep going. Don't give up there.
Got to keep going.
Right? Especially now. There's so many ways to make money with technology and entrepreneurism. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur in this country, in my opinion. Let's talk, Ryan Pribble, about your core. We got about 4 minutes left here on Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast.
All right.
Your philosophy, I call it your guiding principle. How have you built Tuff Toe? What is it that you bring to work that sort of instills the culture in you and your team?
Oh boy. Well, I think you can tell I'm fairly tenacious and persistent, right?
Right.
So I think that.
Were you an athlete?
I was, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but nothing professional or anything like that.
Right.
Right. I just think that I don't have a big philosophy, but it's kind of more of a lead by example type of situation, and I want my team to persevere through their issues, their problems, getting to their goals. It's easy to come ask me for the answers. I've been doing this almost 30 years, so I need them to solve their own problems, be tenacious about it, and that builds confidence within themselves and confidence within the group and the team.
Right.
So I would say, being persistent, and then maybe, I'm all about integrity. And so I think that, we're all going to get somewhere in life, wherever that is, we're going to get somewhere, but it's more about how you get there, the journey versus the destination. But the journey, it's how you act while you're on that journey, right? That's how you treat people, and it's how, can you look somebody in the eye when you talk to them? Is your handshake and your word just as good as a 50-page legal document? Or are you consistent? Can you tell somebody the truth when it's hard to tell somebody the truth?
Right.
So I try to approach it that way. I mean, people love to root for the good guy in the movies, right?
Yes.
So
most people.
Yeah. Right. And I just think that answering the call, being the guy that has integrity, that's how you get to those long yeses, right?
Yes.
Because you got to build a foundation
Right.
of truth and honesty and integrity, so that maybe you're going to say no in 3 months, maybe you're going to say no in 3 years, but gosh darn it, in 10 years, I'm
Right.
going to get a yes out of
If
you.
I'm still on this earth.
Right. And it's because we've built a relationship, and you can see I am who I am, and I do what I say, and I'm hoping that rubs off on.
Wow, that's awesome.
on
I want
Tough
to reel it back a little bit to what you said earlier. One of the things that I hear in the peer groups from a lot of the leaders of companies is it's so great when an employee comes having identified a problem with a possible solution, whether it's the best idea or not. If it's the seeds from which the better idea might be able to
Sure.
be sprung, and
Absolutely.
it's so great for somebody to come to them and say, "Hey, this is wrong, and here's what I think we might want to do about it."
Right.
Because then they're helping you to solve problems.
Right, absolutely.
And that's such a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, really? Okay.
Right, yeah,
'Cause sometimes they know better how to solve the problem even than you do because you're a distance away
Right,
from it.
right. They've got their hands on it every day, all day, for
Right,
sure.
right.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you. Persistence is the key. That one extra. I've always been rewarded when I've worked a little extra effort. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I've rarely put the extra effort into something and not seen almost an immediate need for that to go, oh, I'm glad I had that. I'm really happy that I did that on
Right.
Saturday morning
Yeah,
versus
that's
not
right.
doing that.
Absolutely.
I'd rather be lucky in some ways than good. And you make your luck by the effort, right? It's where opportunity meets preparation.
Absolutely.
That's what I think luck is. All right, Ryan Pribble, you're going to be back on the show in a couple years. What's going to be different for you and or Tuff Toe Incorporated, my friend?
I think that there are a few, I'd say about a half dozen other partnerships that can be had,
Wow.
as far as
Look at you
co-branding
thinking big now,
opportunities.
huh?
Yeah. And then this 16-year-long, yes, I'm 3 months away from it. We're in the final stages of testing. And I think that's going to take us to a new level. I think it's going to allow us to get into the general adhesives market. And that's a much broader market
Right.
than just putting, our great product on footwear.
Right.
So that's
Wow.
the plan.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
You're definitely coming back on.
Yeah.
We may not have to wait a couple of years. Maybe just a couple of months. Maybe this time next year, Nicole, we need to get him back on. If someone would like to learn more about Tuff Toe, how would they find you online?
Our website, tufftoe.com, which is tufftoe.com. We're on Facebook, same thing, Tuff Toe, and I think at Tuff Toe with Instagram, and what else is there? I'm
So-
not the highest tech guy, but
Have you always been Tuff Toe, TUFF?
Right.
That's
Yep.
always been the brand?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, so it's out there. Just Google
Right.
Tuff Toe, baby, and you will find it. Well, thank you for giving of your time,
Absolutely.
being a part of the community. I've enjoyed this a lot. I was serious when I said I've been looking forward to this interview. Ryan and I have been talking about this for some time. Thank you for making the time to
Absolutely.
be
Thank
here,
you.
my
I
friend.
appreciate it. I appreciate the
course.
opportunity.
I'd like to thank our engineer for today's show, Mr. Paul Roberts, and our three producers without whom we could not do the show each week. They are Joan Park, Crystal Nunley, and our newest producer, who's here in the studio off camera, Nicole Terry. If you'd like to connect with me, let's start on LinkedIn. I'm Richard Franzi, Franzi. And until our next show, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.
You have been listening to Critical Mass
Thank you.
Radio Show
Absolutely.
Business
Oops,
Talk
yeah.
Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host,
Cool.
Richard Franzi.
She got it in the beginning.
Go back and tell was your boyfriend? You gonna go back and tell your boyfriend you meant Tuff Toe?
Yeah. The big toe.